increase its prices, or anytime a company wants to lay off somebody, they have to get permission from the White House. Now, protectionism, trade intervention are usually misguided and often costly. Tariffs and quotas on imports listen to this, redistribute income from consumers to producers. From you to a producer. And trade barriers reduce exports and harm downstream user industries. Like Harley Davidson. But Harley was going to do it anyway. I'll get to that in a minute. Because now we're all supposed to hate Harley Davidson. Why do I hate Harley Davidson? Now, particularly you guys and gals who ride these wonderful motorcycles, you're supposed to hate the company now. Because that's what the president has told you to do. And he says he may tax them like never before. Can a president just tax a company like never before if he disagrees with the company? Is this what we want out of our government, or any president for that matter? I told you I love Trump, but there's areas where I disagree with him. This happens to be the biggest one. Now, jobs will be saved in industries that compete against imports. Reducing trade saves those jobs only by destroying jobs elsewhere in the economy. Opponents of free trade have also argued that imports have replaced good, high-wage jobs with bad, low-wage jobs. That's not what the statistics show. The truth turns out to be quite the opposite. Jobs in industries that compete against imports are mainly low-skill, consequently low-wage jobs. I saw one contributor on Fox not too long ago say, well, you know, Ronald Reagan, he put tariffs on all motorcycles except Harley Davidson because Harley Davidson was going under and he wanted to protect it. And he did. And he did that 2 or 3 times during the course of his presidency. And he was wrong. But the vast majority of the time during the course of his presidency, he was fighting for freer trade. And that same pundit didn't mention that he actually vetoed a bill that came out of Congress. That was a heavy tariffs protectionist bill. And he had also given numerous veto warnings to the Democrats in Congress that if they passed such a bill, he would veto. So Trump was not a big protectionist. Excuse me. Reagan was not a big protectionist. He was not a big tariff guy, even though he did it in a relative few instances. In fact,
No, my Blue Devils are one hell of a team. You know, I think they're going to be one of the best teams in college basketball. Them and my Kentucky Wildcats. Duke and Kentucky are going to be the best. I think Duke's going to win the championship. I think Kentucky's going to the Final Four.
so let's not pretend Reagan was some big tariffs slash protectionist. The protectionists, the Republican protectionists, are very schizophrenic about it.
I don't know. I think they'll be placed in a region. It'll be too hard for them to
He was a big tariff guy. On the other hand, they said,
advance in the championship game. Duke tends to have an easier region they get placed in, but overall, I think Duke's got a better team anyway. They're both amazing teams.
the explosion of the economy under Reagan is from
Duke is a beast, and Kentucky's not too far behind.
5 million jobs through his presidency.
And they play in November.
Bush's presidency.
It should be a good game. I'll take Duke in that matchup. Reluctantly.
Like that since the Industrial Revolution. Get the greatest tax cuts in American history. Big fan of President Trump.
You know Kentucky's my third favorite team, right behind ASU.
Top rate for 90%.
Duke's my most favorite team.
Free rates.
I root for all 3 of them.
Those are on the individual side. Where the president's tax cuts didn't do a whole lot. On the corporate side, the president's tax cuts did a lot. That is President Trump, as did Reagan. Reagan slashed corporate income taxes. They slashed individual income taxes across the board. There was no talk like we heard from Speaker Paul Ryan about the rich and the do this to the rich and the that to the rich. And none of the class warfare that you hear from the phony free market slash private property include many middle-class people who own mutual funds or 401ks or IRAs and invest in stocks, which may include Harley Davidson. They're not in business to go out of business. Or anybody else. That doesn't serve anybody. So they see this coming, and so they say, this is what we're going to have to do. And so the president left the locals on that. God said no.
It's so lucky to have Dr. Reed, you know. I met him. In New York once.
If only there were more of us, with less resignation and more determination.
I know I can count on you. I wish I could say the same for David.
Well, that's fine. That's India, but that's not Europe. That's not Asia. That's not 190 other countries. You're not a politician. You run a company.
I'm sorry that these sad and faded walls are all I have to offer as a final resting.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Reed.
Always a pleasure to meet a colleague, sir. Especially when he was supposedly dead.
A colleague. Are you a doctor too?
Not anymore, sir. I used to be Dr. Rakesh Chadana. Now, I'm just Mr. Chadana, pawnbroker and humble guardian of this morgue.
What do you mean? You used to be a doctor. Was your license revoked?
No, sir. It is just that I like to be precise. I run a little pawn shop while taking care of the dead. But I used to be a real doctor.
Please show me what you have to sell.
Of course. It's just trinkets and curios, really. But I'm sure they can be useful.
25% on steel. A tariff on steel is a tax on the American people. I don't have any more time to say. It's a tax on the American consumer. It's a tax on other blue-collar workers who work on assembly line. We're downstream from the raw material. It has consequences. It has had consequences. Everybody but not. And for some reason, we're not going to turn it over. Hoover was a big demagogue when it came to tariffs. Hoover turned a recession into a depression, in part due to protectionism and tariffs. The rest of the world responded. He put massive tariffs in place. He said that it's not fair. He wants fair trade.
As for me,
Our workers are being
what a blundering idiot.
because our wages are higher than other countries. He put these big tariffs in place. And so they all put tariffs in place. Over a period of about 24 months, it went from a recession to a depression. Now, I'm not saying we're going to have a depression, but I am saying if this keeps up, we will have a recession. What about China? If you listen to this program, you know I make an exception for national
So it is true. The famous Dr. Reed has joined us. I can't think of any better news during these terrible times.
Do we know each other?
Actually, yes. We met once before, at the Rockefeller University in New York.
Dr. Tippett, yes, I remember. I was assisting Professor Carell in his research about coronary bypasses. He had nothing but praise for you.
He was also very confident about your future. And look at you now. Eminent surgeon and blood transfusion specialist.
Corcoran, I want you to tell me about Mr. Connor. How did he die? What happened?
He was my patient. He died because of my mistake. That's the blunt truth.
Who was this patient?
I don't know. Some sick man from the docks. Maybe a fisherman. I had no time to talk with him. No one claimed a body.
What was the nature of the mistake?
It was a twofold error. My diagnosis was wrong, and the administered dosage was too strong.
Why not stop practicing?
Are you mad? I killed that man, I admit it, and it won't happen again. I have saved so many lives since then.
I will cover for you, Dr. Tibbetts, by keeping what happened to Mr. Connor to myself.
I don't know what to say, actually. I can't exactly force you to become my accomplice.
You didn't force me. This is my decision to make. I believe you're still of use to the hospital, considering the situation.
Then I can make you this promise. As soon as the epidemic is eradicated, I will resign.
One Mayo Clinic doctor suggests trying positive posts on new technology. Our mind has
Goodbye, Dr. Tippett. It's locked, all right.
behind closed doors to ensure the passage of Obamacare. We're an organization that stood against tax cuts for middle-class Americans and small business owners. Would you join that organization? No? Did you know that organization is the AARP? You know, there's another organization that shares your values, and they have outstanding discounts and benefits too. It's called AMAC. It's the conservative alternative. AMAC is a wonderful organization. It's founded by a gentleman who was sick and tired
Patients are not fools.
Ask any dentist and they will tell you most of us brush our teeth too hard, unevenly, and not nearly long enough. And that leads to serious health problems. So I decided to do something about it. I've started Enema, and I invented Quip, a modern electric toothbrush to help you have fresh breath, pristine teeth, and excellent oral hygiene. As a product designer, I care about how your toothbrush looks, feels, and the quality of every bristle. Quip has a lightweight and sleek design.
Good evening, Dr. Reed. Such a pleasure to see you again.
Please show me what you have to sell.
Of course. It's just trinkets and curios, really. But I'm sure they can be useful.
Go to getquip.com/benefit right now and get your first refill pack free. Electric toothbrush. That's your first refill pack free at getquip.com/benefit. Spelled GETQUIP.com.
Tomorrow, more bodies will arrive and then sadly depart. I'm management trained.
You are going to reveal all your secrets.
CBS Sacramento, Channel 13, California considers creating a fake news advisory group. Now who's threatening freedom of the press? California is considering creating a fake news advisory group in order to monitor information posted and spread on social media. This sounds like Red China. Senate Bill 1424 would require the California Attorney General to create the advisory committee by April 1, 2019.
Democrats and Republicans condemn Maxine Waters, but is she the future? Plus, President Trump throws one hell of a rally, and the Supreme Court helps out President Trump on the travel ban. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. So many magical things happening in the world. We'll discuss all of those magical things in just a second. First, I want to let you know that on Monday, July 2nd, 7 p.m. Eastern, we will be joined in studio by Jordan Peterson to celebrate Independence Day. Daily Wire guy King Jeremy Boring is hosting a new edition of Daily Wire Backstage with me and Andrew Klavan and the execrable Michael Knowles to look back on our country's birth and look ahead to its future. Subscribers will even be able to write in live questions for us to answer on the air. So that is Monday, July 2nd, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, with our special guest, Jordan Peterson. And you can find our special live stream on Facebook and YouTube. So don't miss it. Check it out and subscribe so you can ask us your questions. Also, before we get started, I want to say thanks to our sponsors over at the USCCA. So how would you like to hit the range tomorrow with a brand new gun? You are a law-abiding, Second Amendment-loving citizen, and that means that you probably should own a weapon to protect yourself, protect your country, protect your family, protect your community. Well, the USCCA wants to give you a free gun right now. They are giving away a different gun every single day this month. This all ends on Friday, so you're almost out of time. Just go to defendmyfamilynow.com and you can get entered right this moment. You You could get up to 17 chances to win your gun every day. It could be 17 Timbers, 17 Glocks, maybe even a Sig Sauer, but they are all gone on Friday. So all you have to do is go to defendmyfamilynow.com to reveal the gun you could take home today. It is totally free, but again, not a lot of time, and the gun of the day always disappears at midnight and sends Friday. So again, defendmyfamilynow.com to get entered to win your free gun right now. Defendmyfamilynow.com.
Finally, you've returned, Doctor. Did you find anything of value?
Yes, nurse.
You've worked your first miracle, Doctor. Now, this patient here needs immediate treatment.
Duty calls. When the storm has passed, I'll show you how to mix the remedy yourself with the same basic ingredients.
Many thanks, Doctor. When you finish, you ought to report to Dr. Swansea in his office. He's been looking for you. Seemed pressing.
President Trump's travel ban. It was not a travel ban according to the Trump administration, but it was a travel ban for particular countries. There were 7 different countries from which travel was essentially banned because we could not vet people who were coming in from those countries. In a 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court on Tuesday upheld President Trump's temporary travel ban, affecting several countries recognized as state sponsors of terrorism, according to Emily Zanotti over at Daily Wire. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the opinion, and it appears both Justice Neil Gorsuch and Justice Anthony Kennedy agreed with the majority, pending President Trump's Justice Department a win on the issue. The court's language was strong. Roberts wrote the opinion. He noted that the president, quote, lawfully exercised the broad discretion granted to him under Section 1182F to suspend the entry of aliens into the United States. And the President of the United States does have plenary power to suspend immigration in this sort of fashion for security purposes. The court also noted that the president's interest in preserving national security, particularly in light of terrorism concerns, overrides concerns pertaining to the free exercise of religion as codified in the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. That was always a stupid argument, the argument that the First Amendment Establishment Clause applies to people who are not American citizens. So if you are in Iran and you want to get into the United States and we say, well, we're banning certain religions, as bad as that policy would be, as stupid as that policy would be, it doesn't violate the First Amendment. You're not a citizen. You can't just be somebody in the middle of a hill in Afghanistan, and you say, well, you're violating my First Amendment rights. You don't have First Amendment rights under the Constitution of the United States. The court stuck to the traditional strict scrutiny standard, writing the president must have compelling reason to override guarantees of religious freedom. In the case of the travel ban, it's entirely possible that the danger of importing known terrorists or supporters of terror outweighs potential First Amendment concerns. Opponents of the ban had asked the court to apply a rational basis standard. The court did not appear to agree on the matter, even considering the president's tweet about Islam. So there are all these courts, these lower courts that had quoted President Trump, suggesting that he was a bigot, and that's what was motivating all of this. And the court said, listen, you can't just cite a bunch of presidential tweets or presidential candidate tweets in support of the proposition that a piece of legislation is inherently bad. You actually have to show that the legislation violates the Constitution. This piece of legislation, or at least this regulation from the executive branch, did not violate the Constitution, and thus President Trump's travel ban stands, at least for the moment, according to the Supreme Court. So that, of course, is a win for President Trump. Meanwhile, the continuation of the mob discussion it continues forthwith. So all of the focus on people who are protesting Trump administration officials at restaurants and trying to get them thrown out of restaurants and shouting outside of people's homes and intimidating people in public places. You recall yesterday we talked about Maxine Waters, representative from California, who went out there and said that you should have mobs basically run people down at gas stations and get them not to participate in public life by screaming at them using these intimidation tactics. A lot of folks on the left have said this is a bad idea, which is good for them, right? That's exactly right. These tactics are stupid. It turns out that even the Red Hen story, the story about Sarah Huckabee Sanders going into a Red Hen in Lexington, Virginia, and being turned away with her family, it didn't actually end there. According to Sarah Huckabee Sanders, employees at the Red Hen then followed her to the next restaurant where they attempted to heckle her at a restaurant that was not their own, which, as I said yesterday, is even worse than a restaurant owner just throwing somebody out for politics. Actually going into somebody else's restaurant and heckling somebody until they leave is close to a ground shirt tactic in public life. It is a nasty tactic that has been used by sort of mobs everywhere in order to intimidate people into not getting involved in politics. Well, people on both sides of the aisle have now condemned this. Sarah Huckabee Sanders yesterday, she slammed Maxine Waters for pushing for exactly this sort of mob action. Here was the White House press secretary.
Healthy debate on ideas and political philosophy is important. But the calls for harassment and push for any Trump supporter
Good evening,
to avoid the public
Good
is
evening,
unacceptable. America is a great country, and our ability
Goodbye,
to
nurse.
find solutions
Call me if you
despite
need
those
assistance.
disagreements is what makes us unique.
Okay, all of that is fine, and she's exactly right. The Democrats, top Democrats are saying the same thing. Chuck Schumer came out and condemned Maxine Waters. Here's what he had to say.
I strongly disagree with those who advocate harassing folks if they don't agree with you. If you disagree with a politician, Organize your fellow citizens to action. Vote them out of office. But no one should call for the harassment of political opponents. That's not right. That's not American.
Okay, and that, of course, is exactly right. Good for Chuck Schumer for saying that, the Senate Minority Leader. Even Nancy Pelosi, the House Minority Leader, she came out and said the same thing, condemning Maxine Waters. She said, in the crucial months ahead, we must strive to make America beautiful again. Trump's daily lack of civility has provoked responses that are predictable but unacceptable. As we go forward, we must conduct elections in a way that achieves unity from sea to shining sea. So she's correct about this, that we actually need to return to civility. But there's something in her comment here that is telling, and it's the reason why we're not going to return to civility anytime soon. What she says is that Trump's daily lack of civility has provoked responses that are predictable but unacceptable. This is all Trump's fault. A mentality that suggests that
Good
lack
evening.
of on the other
Good
side
evening, Doctor.
is the real problem.
Goodbye,
Generally
nurse.
allows
Call
people
me
on
if
your
you
side
need
to act with
assistance.
lack of civility. So there are a lot of good psychological studies that suggest that if you believe you are a victim, you are more likely to act out against somebody else. Every victimizer believes at root that they are a victim. Hitler believed that he was a victim of the world. He believed that the Jews were victimizing his country, and so he was therefore justified in acting out. Very rare that you find somebody who's an aggressor who doesn't claim that they were acting in some sort of vague sense of self-defense. Well, this is what Democrats are doing now. Democrats are basically suggesting that Trump started all of this, and Trump, meanwhile, is suggesting that Democrats started all of this. Now, I think the Democrats got uncivil long before Republicans did. I think they were deeply uncivil during the Bush administration when they were calling Bush Hitler. I think that President Obama was uncivil in the way that he was fomenting riots in places like Ferguson, Missouri, and Baltimore, Maryland. But does that mean that we have an excuse for exacerbating the incivility? I don't think so, because the bottom line is that we can now have this reactionary back and forth of incivility across the political aisle as long as we want to do it. I just don't think that's going to make the country better in any way. But my argument is likely to lose, because I'm saying that we should take a moral high ground here, that we should take a stand in favor of civility, that even if somebody is attempting to protest you and destroy you by going into a restaurant and yelling at you, that this is not an excuse for you to do the same thing to people on the other side of the aisle. I understand that's an unpopular perspective right now, and this is how you have entire political parties that are captured by a base. So while you have Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi condemning Maxine Waters, I really think that Maxine Waters is the future of the Democratic Party, in just the same way that you saw Democrats during 2008, 2012, 2016, suggesting that Bernie Sanders was too radical, and then Bernie Sanders took over the entire base. I think the same thing holds true here. Maxine Waters is channeling the most extreme side of the Democratic base, and that extreme side of the Democratic base has a lot of emotion behind it, and even people in the mainstream of the Democratic Party, they may disagree with the tactics, but they agree with the sentiment. And so I think Maxine Waters, in the end, is probably going to win this one in the long run. I don't think a return to civility is in the cards anytime soon. Here's Maxine Waters, who is expressing exactly what I'm talking about, blaming Trump for her own nasty and evil actions here.
I don't know why the president chose to stretch that out and try to imply that I was causing harm. As a matter of fact, the president calls for more violence than anybody else. But let's not talk about that.
Okay, so Maxine Waters, again, saying that it's totally okay for her to call for violence or mob action because Trump, she thinks, called for violence or mob action. Then President Trump has responded basically in kind, right? President Trump has suggested that there would be consequences for what Maxine Waters had to say, that there would be backlash. None of this is good stuff. And as I say, I think Maxine Waters represents a serious portion of the Democratic base and the most passionate portion of the Democratic base, and the part of the Democratic base that a lot of these politicians like Schumer and Pelosi eventually will have to bow to. So, for example, John Legend, who is, I think, more representative of the base in many ways than Nancy Pelosi, he tweeted out, "Let's make a deal with the Trump administration. Reunite all these families immediately, and you can go out to eat wherever the bleep you want."
Good
In other
evening,
words, do what
Nurse
we want,
Brannigan.
or we're
Good
going to
evening,
use
Doctor.
tactics of intimidation. And John Legend is, of course, a very popular figure. Simone Sanders on CNN, she said yesterday that all these people who are talking about civility, including Nancy Pelosi, including people like Chuck Schumer, the only reason they're talking about civility is because civility is just another instance of white privilege.
Goodbye, nurse. Call me if you need assistance.
Folks calling for civility might need to check their privilege. And so, where is the civility in the press briefing room? And where is the civility at the border for these children? And so, this conversation about civility is completely one-sided and skewed.
How is it one-sided and skewed? Going into restaurants and shouting people out of restaurants, going to people's homes and protesting outside their homes. How exactly is that skewed? Why is that an element of white privilege? It seems to me that of all the people in the United States who shouldn't like mob action, black folks should be high on that list, considering how mob action resulted in tremendous suffering for black people for literally a century and a half in this country. Like that makes no sense to me. Like, the worst instances of mob action in this country's history have been actions that were taken in the Jim Crow South during the 1910s, 20s, and 30s. And yet, Simone Sanders says that to oppose mob action is some sort of white privilege. I don't see that at all. I don't understand how that works. Ashley
Dr.
Nicole,
Reed, any good news to share?
Nicole Black, she tweeted something out similarly. This is tweet 15. This is a writer, I believe, for Jimmy Kimmel. And she tweeted, oh, hello, I didn't see you there.
Dr.
Civility is a tool of white supremacy. Okay, cool. Bye. Which is a weird tweet. She tweeted that out. She's a Samantha Bee writer, rather. Civility is a tool of white supremacy? No, civility is a tool of having a decent republic. We can't have a decent republic if we can't have conversations with one another. But again, I think that the capture of the base is nearly complete. I'm going to talk a little more about that in just a second. First, I want to talk about what you should be doing to protect your money. And one of the things you should be doing to protect your money is allowing somebody who really knows
I'm
what to
Dr.
do with money to
Jonathan
help
Reed.
you handle your
I'm
money.
new
That's what
here.
Betterment is
I've
for.
already
They're
heard about
largest
you,
online
Dr. Reed.
financial advisor.
I'm Milton
Their mission is
Hooks,
to help customers
the
with
ambulance
no
driver
cost
for this
plan for
shithole of a
experiment and achieve
hospital.
their
That's
financial
quite a
goals.
blunt
Their mission is to help
introduction,
customers
Mr.
make the
Hook.
most of their money.
You can call
They
me
take
Milton.
complex investment
I like to speak my mind,
strategies
Dr. Reed.
and use
Perk of the
technology
job.
to make them
Don't
more
judge me,
efficient.
and I won't
So,
judge
I
you.
have a
I'm not
financial
sure
advisor.
I
I tell
understand
my
what you're
financial advisor,
talking
my
about.
financial advisor
Well, I'm no
does.
doctor,
Also,
but I'm pretty sure a gun can't be used as a surgical instrument.
You have a keen eye. I learned to shoot during the war, and have carried one ever since.
You get everything for a low,
Old habits
transparent
die
management
hard.
fee.
No
And
need to
advice is also
explain,
in the
Dr.
best interest as a
Reed.
fiduciary
And if you
to make
ever need a
recommendations in
better
clients'
gun,
best interest.
remember,
They're not
I may have
incentivized to
something for
recommend
you.
particular funds. They don't have their own investment products to sell over at Betterment, and they'll provide you tools to help you understand how you're doing. So they offer personalized
I'd
advice,
like to
a
see
suite
your
of tools
goods.
to help you
Wise
know
choice,
whether you're on
Dr.
track
Reed.
to hit your
A
investment goals
reliable
or get the
gun is
retirement
what
you want.
everybody
If you are
needs
young
these
and you're
days.
planning for the future, there's no question you should have a financial advisor, and Betterment helps make it easy. Ben Shapiro Show listeners can get up to 1 year managed for free. For more information, go to betterment.com/Shapiro. That's betterment.com/Shapiro. Again, BETTERMENT.com/Shapiro. Use that /Shapiro. You get up to 1 year managed for free. Betterment.com/Shapiro. Check it out. Okay, so as I said, I think there's a lot of talk on the Democratic side of the aisle from the leadership about let's not get violent, let's not engage in this sort of mass action, let's not get uncivil. But I don't think that that's the way this is going to go. I think that incivility is now seen as a tool of the passionate. Civility is seen as a tool of the establishment. If you are civil, if you are decent to other people, because our politics has gotten so contentious, this means you don't care enough. And we now gauge our politicians not along the lines of what they get done or how effective they are. We gauge them along the lines of how much they care. We see authenticity in anger. We see authenticity in rage. We see authenticity in you going out there and shouting at the moon. This makes you a more authentic politician. Nancy Pelosi's fake. Chuck Schumer is fake. But Maxine Waters, she's real. She's anti-Maxine. She's anti-Maxine sitting around your kitchen table telling you how you ought to go to a gas station and harass somebody until they leave. So I have my serious doubts that this genie can be put back in the bottle. And by the way, I'm not sure that the genie can be put back in the bottle from the right, because there are a lot of people on the right who are calling for civility today. A lot of people on the right who are suggesting that
Good
we
evening,
be more
Miss
civil
Hawkins.
to
Good
one
evening,
another.
Dr. Reid.
And that is not the tenor
Goodbye,
of the
Miss
Republican Party at this point. That is not the tenor of President Trump. That is not the tenor of a lot of the people who are big fans of President Trump. The thing they like best about President Trump is that he is uncivil, again, because they think, I think rightly so, that Republicans have been punched so often that they need someone who's going to punch back. The problem is there's a difference between punching. You can punch in civil fashion. Okay, I know that sounds contradictory, but it's not. You can be polite and still say things that really gut the opponent. And then there's punching wildly and making the civil society worse. And I think that that's more what President Trump tends to do. Like, I'm not sure how this is particularly helpful. Trump supporters were at a rally yesterday, and they started yelling, "Go home, Jim," and Jim Acosta. Now, I think Jim Acosta's an idiot, right? I mean, I think that he's terrible. I've talked about it on the air many, many times. But the kind of revelry that surrounds this, the sort of triumphalism that surrounds shouting at a reporter, "Go home, Jim," I'm just not sure how that makes the country better in any significant way.
We'll be here later on tonight campaigning for the man who wants to be the governor of South Carolina.
Please, Jonathan, come in. Fascinating, is it not? In the last decade, so many mysteries have been brought to light with our microscopes. The human body, biology's penultimate frontier. The more we explore its boundaries, the less we're able to trace a clear line between life and death. You, my friend, have a foot in both countries. The view must be vertiginous.
It's at least as vertiginous as chatting about vampires with you, I would say.
So I think that, you know, what we're seeing in
This
South
must be
Carolina
all so
at
new
rallies
to
is
you.
quite the same thing as going into
This
a restaurant
area of
and harassing
town, the
somebody.
hospital, A brand new life?
It's quite the same thing.
How stimulating it must be.
I wish I could share your enthusiasm, Dr. Swansea, but my condition defies scientific categorization. Undead? Unalive? Immortality defies logic.
I cannot express my thrill at this serendipitous turn of events. The world's most eminent specialist in blood transfusions, a vampire. One might say a gift from heaven.
Made politics uncivil. As I said before, I don't think that Trump made politics uncivil. I think politics has been uncivil since Cindy Sheehan was standing outside George W. Bush's ranch.
It may seem strange, but your words have brought me some comfort here.
Forgive me. I've been an admirer of your work for a long time, and now you are so much more than a brilliant physician. And please, call me Edgar.
Really uncivil, I think. And then top-level politicians have channeled that anger. And instead of saying to people,
there is no need to apologize, Edgar.
Your anger is unjustified.
You offered me sanctuary when I had none.
But let's try to treat each other well.
Very well. I have a task for you, Jonathan. Something that will require all your newfound skills.
Please, go on.
The Pembroke only survives through the generosity of our benefactors. Unfortunately, our main donor has found herself in a bit of a bind. Now, if you could help her out...
A spokesman or politician is what you need. That's not my calling. And until I come to understand what has happened to me, I require discretion.
Discretion is in order, Jonathan. Lady Ashbury has recently received rather indelicate correspondence that, if revealed, would jeopardize her position.
And you would like me to eradicate this threat?
By the stole, of course not. I would just like you to pay her a visit. Her ladyship is certainly near the tents outside, tending the sick. You can't miss her. Look for someone impossibly delicate.
Accepted. I'll see what kind of trouble Lady Ashbury is in.
Oh, here he comes, Donald Trump. Oh, sir, how are you? Hi. Oh, sir, thank you so much for doing it. Jimmy Fallon calls me up, and he's like a nice guy. He's lost. He looks like a lost soul. Right? He gets out there. Hey, hi. Oh. But you know what? He's a nice guy. I agreed to do a show. What is it, a year and a half, 2 years later? He's now apologizing because he humanized me. And he really hurt himself. So I said to him today on social media, I said, Jimmy, be a man. Just relax. Just relax.
So two things can be simultaneously true. One, Trump is hilarious.